Why is it now, do you think? Is there anything special about now?
Well, I think for the last year or so, there has been a huge amount of speculation as to when Big Pharma would indulge in this particular behaviour. And I think it's really part of the general market cycle. You've also seen a flurry of IPOs. And of course, the fact is, you see this massive rotation probably from the growth stocks into the value stocks. I think there's a change in sentiment to an extent there. But I think the pharma companies, given the fact that they have probably lost a huge amount of revenue owing to some of their drugs coming off brand and going into the generic label. So this is a way of finessing their distribution lines and I suppose returning more to the shareholders this way.
Okay, so keeping shareholders happy, one thing. Freeing up some cash to invest in future R&D as well?
I think that could be the case. I think we're still in a low interest rate environment. We've been given a fairly clear point of view from several central banks that a low interest rate environment will continue for the next year to a year and a half. So this is a way of, I suppose, returning cash and using some of it, which is obviously earning nothing, in order to make a better return.
I want to speak specifically about Pfizer and AstraZeneca. I know that Pfizer CEO is over on this charm offensive with investors. Could AstraZeneca be the new Cadbury? And I'm referring, of course, to Kraft coming in, picking up Cadbury, laying off a lot of people after promising not to do so. And how hot will the politicians be on this?
I think the politicians will be exceptionally hot to trot on this. And I think they've already started to stoke an investigation into what actually will happen if and when Pfizer actually manages to acquire AstraZeneca. Of course, we have seen Pfizer fall back on promises in the past in terms of closing a research centre, and of course the MPs will be very concerned as to whether this will have an impact on competition in this particular space, but also for the wider economy in terms of the job losses that could entail and I suppose the effects that would have on the British economy. So I would expect that for the time being, given that AstraZeneca has not actually, I suppose, agreed anything with Pfizer thus far, that this will have a big impact on what actually does happen.
And you know, if we look at the share price, the AstraZeneca share price, is it now done, or do you think it's still something you should be interested in?
I think in some ways, given the massive gap up we saw in the share price and the fact that AstraZeneca themselves actually said to shareholders not to get too excited by this particular rumour, it could actually spell a little bit of downside for the stock. I think possibly markets have gotten a little bit ahead of themselves because the deal has not yet been struck. So we could actually see a bit of a return and that gap could very well be filled over the coming weeks.